You worked for weeks to close that client. You ran the ads, you had the discovery calls, you sent the proposals, you followed up, you answered every question, and finally they said yes. And then the experience fell off the cliff. No real onboarding, no structured check-ins, no system to keep them engaged, progressing, and feeling like they made the right decision. Just a confirmation email, maybe a welcome message, and then silence. And 3 months later, they quietly left. Everyone is obsessed with the funnel, with the lead magnets, but there's a massive blind spot. The sale creates the expectation. That is their peak excitement, peak trust, peak belief. And what most businesses do is nothing at that moment.
Most clients don't leave because your offer was bad. They leave because the experience after the sale had no structure, no nurture, and no system. In this episode, Natasha breaks down the hidden gap that quietly causes businesses to lose trust, retention, and long-term revenue. If you want to watch the full episode, click the attached video or comment podcast.
All right, you worked for weeks to close that client. You ran the ads, you had the discovery calls, you sent the proposals, you followed up, you answered every question, and finally they said yes. And then the experience fell off the cliff. No real onboarding, no structured check-ins, no system to keep them engaged, progressing, and feeling like they made the right decision. Just a confirmation email, maybe a welcome message, and then silence. And 3 months later, they quietly left, right? If that story hits close to home, stay with me, because today we are talking about the most neglected part of almost every entrepreneur's business. What happens after somebody pays you? The post-sale experience, and more importantly, the system that fixes it. So, welcome back to the Digital Shift podcast. I'm your host, Natasha Roberson, Customer Experience and Strategy Officer here at Self-Made. So let's get into it, right? So here's what I've noticed working with entrepreneurs at all different stages, all right? Everyone is obsessed with the funnel, with the lead magnets, right? With the ads, with the landing page, the follow-up sequence, getting the close, and those things matter. Absolutely. But there's a massive blind spot that I see over and over and over again. And it's everything that happens after somebody says yes. Okay. They think about it like, I want you to think about it this way. The sale creates the expectation. Whatever you promised, whatever transformation you sold, whatever result they signed up for, the expectation is at its absolute highest moment when they hand over their money. That is their peak excitement, peak trust, peak belief that this is going to change something for them. All right. And what most businesses do is nothing at that moment, right? They send a generic confirmation email and move on to closing the next client. Bad, right? Here's the truth that most people don't want to say out loud. Churn is rarely about your offer. It's rarely because your program wasn't good enough or your service didn't deliver. Most of the time, clients leave because of how they felt after they paid. They felt forgotten. They felt like just another transaction. They felt like the energy that was there during the sale evaporated the moment money cleared. And here's what makes this so frustrating. GHL is literally built to solve this problem. The workflows, the pipelines, the automated touch points, the tagging, the segmentation, all of it can power a post-sale experience that makes every client feel like an MVP. Most people just never set it up. So today I'm walking you through 3 phases that we use post-sale systems and retain clients, build loyalty, and turns your best clients into your best marketing. So let's go. All right. So phase 1, This is your onboarding. And I want to be really specific here because onboarding is one of those words that gets thrown around a lot, but rarely gets built properly. The first 48 hours after somebody becomes a client are the most important hours of their entire relationship with you. The window is when their excitement is the highest, their buyer's remorse risk is highest, and their need for reassurance is highest. Everything you do or don't do in this window sets the tone for the entire engagement. So, what does a real GHL onboarding workflow look like? Let me walk you through it, okay? The moment a client pays, a GHL workflow triggers automatically. Not an hour later, not the next day, immediately. The first touch point is warm, personal, welcoming in your voice with your energy. That does three things. It celebrates their decision, it sets some clear expectations for what happens next, and it delivers a quick win. That quick win is critical. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be something that makes them feel like they're already getting value. A resource, a framework, a short video that gives them an immediate insight, something that makes them think, yes, I made the right call. From there, the onboarding sequence continues over the next several days. All right. GHL is doing the heavy lifting.
Hey, quick pause before we continue, because if you're listening to this podcast and thinking, I love the strategy, but the tech still feels overwhelming, you're not alone. That's why Tech Savvy School exists. Tech Savvy School is where entrepreneurs learn how to actually build the systems behind a scalable business. Funnels, automations, workflows, and tools explained in plain language, step by step. No guessing, no duct taping platforms together anymore, just clarity and confidence with the tech that supports your growth. This podcast helps you think differently about your business. Tech Savvy School helps you implement what you're learning. If you're ready to stop feeling stuck on the tech side of things in your business, visit techsavvyschool.com and explore the trainings. All right, let's get back to the episode.
Send in the right content, collecting any information you need, getting them into the right pipeline stage, but it never feels robotic because you've built your personality into every single touch point. Does that make sense? And I want to say this clearly because it matters. Automation does not mean impersonal. The goal of your onboarding sequence is not to just check boxes. The goal is to make every new client feel like they just joined something that actually cares about their success, your warmth, your voice, your specific way of showing up for people. Okay. That has to come through even when the system is doing the sending. So when you nail this, something interesting starts to happen. You start getting buyer's remorse messages, right? Actually, I just said that. No, you stop. You don't start. I was like, hold on a second. You stop getting buyer's remorse messages. You stop getting cancellation requests in the first 2 weeks because the client already felt affirmed multiple times that they made the right decision. Now we get into phase 2. Phase 2 is your check-in system. So we had our onboarding, right? We got the onboarding, first 48 hours. Phase 2 is your check-in system. And this is where most businesses completely fall apart. We will do audits and it will be like, yep, oh, where'd you go? Right? But this is where they fall apart, not because they don't care, but because they just have no system. Here's something I need you really to hear and understand about how clients and why clients leave. They almost never leave suddenly. All right. They don't wake up one day, decide they're done, and fire off a cancellation email out of nowhere. What actually happens is they go quiet first. They stop engaging. They stop opening emails. They stop showing up for calls. They stop logging into your platform. And if nothing in your business is designed to notice that silence and respond to it, they'll eventually reach out to cancel. And by then, it's almost always too late. The decision has already been made. So your check-in system exists to catch clients before they go quiet. And in GHL, this is extremely buildable, okay? And it's extremely it's one of our biggest things, right? And it's entirely like easy to build inside of your GHL, okay? With some direction, with some guidance, some mentorship, right? Your check-in system exists to catch those clients before they go client. We want you to have that, okay? You're going to build some milestones that are based on check-ins, right? Not just time-based, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, but behavior-based. This is where people don't do, but behavior-based, okay? GHL is tracking what your clients are doing or not doing, right? Are they logging in? Are they completing the steps? Are they engaging in your content? When someone who was actively doing all the things and suddenly goes silent, that's a trigger, okay? A check-in fires automatically. So one that we have built is for our tech-savvy students. If they don't log in to their platform, into the coursework at least once a week, the system says, oh, your week, I send a really fun, I don't know the exact language, but your week must be super busy. We noticed you weren't able to get into any of the course weekend lessons this week. I just want to touch base. Do you need, what kind of support do you need from us? Where are you stuck? How can we support? We'd love to have you on the next live call, right? They are like, ooh, they noticed I wasn't in. We want our students to win. And because of that, we set these behavior automations in place. So I want to also say that now here is the distinction that makes the difference between a check-in that actually works and one that feels like noise. Okay. There's a big difference between reaching out to ask how someone is doing and reaching out to add value. All right. A generic just checking in message gets ignored, especially after the first 2 or 3 that you send. But a message that says, hey, I noticed you hadn't had a chance to go through module 3 yet. I wanted to send you a quick resource because it addresses exactly what most people get stuck on at this stage. That gets a response. That keeps someone in the game. The check-in system isn't about surveillance. It's about stewardship, okay? It's about being the business that actually shows up for its clients consistently, thoughtfully, and without them having to ask for it. When you build this inside your Go High level, you are literally creating a system that fights for your client relationships while you're busy running your business. That is retention infrastructure. And most of your competitors do not have it. You probably maybe have never even heard of it, right? So let's dive into phase 3. And this is your ascension path. Ascension path. Oh my gosh, right? And this is where the real leverage lives, okay? Retention is great. Keeping a client for 12 months instead of 3 is like completely different business. We'll talk about the math of that in a minute, all right? But retention without a path forward is still a ceiling. The best clients, the ones who are getting the results, who are encouraged, who trust you, they want to go deeper. They're ready for more. And if you don't have a natural next step for them, they'll eventually outgrow what you offer and move on. So the ascension path is how you prevent that, okay? And inside Go High Level, you can build a pipeline that identifies clients who are ready to ascend, okay? Not based on guesswork, but based on actual behavior. Are they completing everything? Are they engaging heavily? Are they asking questions that signal they're ready for the next level? Those are triggers. You can tell your GHL system to notice them. Your system's going to then respond, okay? The ascension conversion doesn't have to be a hard sell. It can be as simple as, I've noticed how much progress you've made. I'd love to talk to you about the next phase and what that could look like for you. That's it. The relationship has already been built. The trust is already there. You're just opening a door, right? And then there's a referral trigger, okay? This one is the most underutilized piece of the entire post-sale system. The best time to ask for a referral is not at the end of an engagement. It's at the peak of a client's success. The moment when they hit a milestone, the moment they share a win, the moment they are most excited about what's happening in their business. GHL can tag that moment and fire a referral ask automatically. Personalized, warm, and timed perfectly. Not a generic, know anyone who needs our services message? No. A specific, thoughtful ask that feels like it came from a person who has been paying attention, because your system has been. And so have you, but you're busy, right? Think about who this client is when all three phases are working. They are onboarded smoothly, they stay engaged, they ascend to the higher level of service, and they referred two people just like that. That one client built through a system, not through luck, is worth 10 clients who churned in month 3. So I want to flip the lens for a second before we close out, because I think this is the part that really lands when you sit with it, okay? Most entrepreneurs think about churn as a loss. A client leaves, that's revenue gone, and yes, that's true. That's absolutely true. But what I want you to think about is the compounding cost of not having a post-sale system. So let's say a client pays you $1,000 a month. If they stay 3 months, that's $3,000. If they stay 12 months because you have an onboarding system that set the right expectations, a check-in system that caught them before they drifted, and an ascension path that gave them the reason to stay, the client is a $12,000, right? That same client is $12,000. Same acquisition cost, 4 times the revenue. Multiply that across your entire client base. That's not a small number. And here's the other side of it. Every client who churns early is a client who probably won't refer anyone, who might not leave a great review, who walks away from your business with an incomplete experience, not because you didn't deliver, but because the system wasn't there to support the delivery. So acquisition is expensive, whether you're spending money on ads or time on content. Getting a client costs you something every single time. Retention is leverage. It's the multiplier that turns the client you already had into the foundation your business scales on. So the businesses that are truly scaling, not just growing, but scaling substantially, are not just good at getting clients. They are excellent at keeping them. And they excel in retaining, right? And that excellence is built into their systems. There's no way they can do that as humans. It is built into their system. So let's land this. So you got 3 phases of a post-sale system that changes your business and retains clients, right? Phase 1, the onboarding. Capture that peak excitement, the moment they pay, and turn it into confidence that they made the right decision. Phase 2, check-ins. Build a system that notices when clients go quiet and responds before silence becomes a cancellation. Phase 3, the ascension, right? Create a path forward for your best clients and a referral trigger timed for when they're most excited about their results. And all of this is absolutely buildable inside of Go High Level. We have it right now. It just has to get built. So if you're listening to this and thinking, I need this, but I honestly don't know where to start, that's exactly what our discovery call is for. And I want to be really clear about what this call actually is, okay? Because I know the words discovery call can feel like code for a sales call. It is absolutely not. It's a clarity call, okay? You come with your questions. We come with ours. We look at where your business actually is right now, where you want to go. And together, we figure out which platform or our program is even a good fit for you, right? There's no pressure. There's no pitch, just an honest conversation to get you clarity on the right next step, whatever that is. So you can book that call at self-made.biz/discovery call. The link is in the show notes. And so if this episode gave you something to think about, share it with another entrepreneur who needs to hear it. The more we talk about what actually builds businesses, the better off we all are. So I'll see you on the next episode.
If you're getting value from these conversations, don't let this be the only episode that you listen to. Every episode of this podcast is designed to help you build a smarter business, one with real systems behind the scenes, not just ideas, motivation, or hustle. We break down what's actually working right now when it comes to automation, content, follow-up, and scaling without the burnout. If you want to see how all of this comes together in real life, I highly recommend watching watching the Self-Made Hub demo. Inside the Self-Made Hub, you'll see how entrepreneurs turn content into leads, and leads into conversations, and conversations into consistent sales using simple automated systems that don't feel overwhelming or cold. You can watch the demo anytime at self-made.biz/demo. Then queue up another episode, because the shift doesn't happen from one conversation. It happens when you start connecting all the dots. And I'll see you in the next episode.